Welcome to the Modern Leadership Podcast. I'm Tim Nolan. Got some cool things I want to talk about today. One of which has to do with interviews, and not sure how many interviews you find yourself doing, but there's a couple things we're going to cover today that you're probably not doing, and this is a big issue because when we look at creating a great employee experience, it starts with the interview. And so it starts with other stuff, front end, HR, things like that. But this is your first interaction with a potential candidate, someone who may end up being on your team. So the interview needs to be very meaningful and impactful. And so there's a few things to really look at. And the first one, it's really interesting because I didn't really think about this at first, but I was looking at some research for my book, and it really got me to start looking at it differently. And so it was looking at how many hiring managers are often looking for experience versus talent. And experience meaning someone who's pretty much doing the same job already, and how can they quickly come in and get up to speed very quickly, and just maybe learning their systems, but they're already doing that same job somewhere else. Now, it used to be, and this is going back quite a few years, that people didn't really care as much. They're like, hey, you have a degree, you're trainable. And so they would put those resources in and pretty much assume like, hey, you don't know anything, but we're going to train you. We're going to train you and get you ready to do this. But it would appear that in many cases, the job market is very different today, where again, people want a perfect fit. And I think in doing that, we're often overlooking how someone can really contribute to the team. And sometimes what people are finding afterwards is they're getting someone with a certain skill set. But remember, with the skill set you're getting and the experience, they're less likely to change as well. They may not be as coachable versus someone who maybe has some experience but not as much, that maybe end up being more valuable to your team. And I will tell you, for me, I always preferred people who didn't have as much experience because they were more coachable, and I found them to be more hungry. So now in certain kinds of jobs, like when I was working with a hospital recently, and they're like, well, they need to be able to do a certain procedure or a certain thing. Like, I get that. But in many other positions where you can, have more of a gap where you can train them. And I think it may create more work on the front end, but I think in the back end, you're more likely to have people who are not only more engaged, but their performance is much higher too. So again, experience versus talent. Be mindful of that, because you want to be looking at, are they a good fit for the team? And do they align with what you're looking for? Not just can they fill the spot? Try to see a little bit more globally than that. And then some other pieces to look at, because remember the workforce has changed, and what today's employee wants is very different than 5 or 10 years ago. And so people leaders at all levels need to be mindful of this. It's not bending them to your will. Is you want to have high expectations, but we also need to cater to them and connect with them in a meaningful way. And part of that starts with asking people what they're passionate about. What are you passionate about? And sometimes maybe you've never asked this. Maybe depending on the kind of job position you're hiring for, it's not something you typically ask, but you should. You really should. And especially if you have younger generation applicants, this is something that they're going to want to talk about. They're going to want to tell you what they're passionate about. And so, and related to that is and Gallup has found purpose is something that really drives engagement when people feel like they have purpose. And so you should be kind of aligning these things. And part of that is looking at how you discuss the mission of your organization. And in some companies, the mission is very strong, it's very prominent. Other companies I've worked with, they don't even have a mission statement. So if you have one, you should be talking about it, and you should explain, this is what our mission means to me. And eventually, the successful candidate, I'm going to ask them to really look at the mission and examine what it means to them, because the mission is very meaningful here. And we need to look at how we are contributing to, um, meeting or exceeding the mission. And I go with this one example from an article I was reading where someone was discussing John F. Kennedy and how when he went to NASA once, and he saw a janitor, and he went to the janitor and he was like, "Hey, what do you do here?" And the janitor says, "Well, I'm helping to put a man on the moon, sir." And he was taken aback by that, because, like, wow, okay. And that's part of NASA's culture, where everyone contributes to the exceptional things they have and they continue to do. And so you want to frame the mission in that sense, that regardless if it's manufacturing, banking, finance, whatever it may be, the mission's important. The people are important. The customers are important. And the work that's being done, regardless of what the role is vital. And everyone needs to be able to look at that and look in the mirror and say, I do something important here. And so you want to be talking about this in the interview. Again, what's their purpose? What are they passionate about? Because you want passionate people. And then you want to turn that passion into fulfilling the mission of the organization and how they contribute to that. And so the next piece is looking at the behavioral characteristics. What does a highly engaged employee look like to you? And when I'm working with folks in the Highly Effective Managers program, next session starts on 10/16 if you want to sign up. But when I'm working with folks, I want them to examine what a highly effective, highly engaged employee looks like. And so when people start thinking about that, they'll quickly come up with 5 or 10 things. I want to see this. It'd be great to see that. And through our work in the program, I show them how they're going to get that. You absolutely, I guarantee you'll get it. If you do what I suggest, what I recommend, you'll absolutely get that. And so but you want to set that foundation. You want to plant that seed in the interview where you are going over certain things. So let's say, for example, you want someone who takes initiative. And so you want to define this for yourself first. Like, what are 3 to 5 things that I would like to see that people are taking initiative on my team? And then think about that. And then you want to infuse that into the job interview questions. So if we're using more behavior-based interview questions at this point, it's like, tell me about a time when you took initiative to solve a problem on your team, at any place they worked at. And that's where you want to sit back and listen to them. Here's what I did for that. Okay. And you want to just start, okay, is this person a go-getter? Does this person need a lot of direction? Does this person have the confidence to go get things done? And so that's a key piece to look at that is often missing, especially with organizations that I work with. And again, the last piece of highly effective, highly engaging interviews is yourself. How engaged are you? How interested are you in that individual that you're interfacing with, whether it's virtually or in person? What does your energy look like? Are you starting the meeting on time? And what's your energy? Are you excited? You're like, hey, tell me more about you. What's going on? And I've been there where I've had maybe 5 or 6, 7 interviews in one day. And so when you're on interview number 7, it's tough to be excited where maybe you were in interview 1 that day. But still, this is something you want to hold yourself accountable to, is what am I doing to bring in good energy? And because that's something people are looking at. Like, can I work for this person? Do I want to work for this person? Again, little things determine that for them. But again, how are you coming into the room? How are you presenting? How are you dressed? How are you speaking about the organization with conviction? And I loved how this one person put it, this group I was working with. She says, when I do interviews, she said that I tell them is, I want you to love this place. I want you to love working here as much as I do. And that's something that when I heard that, it's like, wow, if I was an applicant, if I'm a candidate, like, man, that's okay. This seems like a really cool place. So you want to look at those things. Like, what do we do? And also talking about the culture. what is great about the culture on the team as well as the organization. So you don't have much control of the organization depending on your role, but on the team, you do. And so, what are you doing to talk about that? And this is where you should identify 3 to 5 examples of here's the culture of our team. This is how we do things here, number one. But number two, what's good about it? How do you guys celebrate things? How do you guys have fun? There's a wide variety of things to look at. So when we're looking at good interviews, the candidate leaves feeling like really excited. This is where commitment comes in. And remember, engagement is what you see. Engagement is a byproduct of commitment. So if someone's committed, that's when they're psychologically connected to the organization, to the mission, to the people they work with, to you, to customers, their impact in the community. They're psychologically connected to that, where they see themselves as part of that. And so your interviews go a long way to start cultivating that commitment. And you have a big role in that. So again, looking at are you hiring for experience or talent? And talent in many cases can outweigh experience. You can teach people a lot of things if you're willing to put that time into it, if you're willing to put that effort into it and involve your team in that part as well. So it's not that you may have to do all the training. How can you enlist your team to really help a new hire, a new teammate really thrive? And so looking at their purpose and their passion, those are really key things to look at. And those behavioral characteristics and having behavior-based interview questions that align from that. And also looking at your energy and your excitement and how are you presenting that first initial experience for someone and why they should want to work there. So a couple things to look at, but if you want to learn more, definitely should come and register for the next Highly Effective Managers program on 10/16. I've got another one I'll be starting in January as well. But if you got a group of 20 or more, we can definitely set one up just for your team. So if you're interested in learning more, you want to get a free copy of the Essential Handbook for Highly Effective Managers, send me an email, tim@highlyeffectiveorganizations.org, and I'll get a book out to you and let's have a conversation. Modern Leadership Podcast, Tim Nolan. Have a great day.